We are at the top of the hour, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So welcome to Platform Analytics Academy. Glad that you came. For everyone that's here, I think we still have some people that are coming in. So yeah, we'll go ahead and get started here. So make sure I can work this thing. Okay, so as usual, this is for you. We try to bring fresh ideas, and we definitely are today with our part 2 in What's New in Tokyo. We're going to be talking about data visualizations today, so that's all great new stuff. So, and also always give you a better understanding and practical guidance. This is recorded as usual. It will be out on the event page later on today and also on our YouTube channels. And we do have a Q&A, so please feel free to ask questions as the presentation is going. Please ask them in the Q&A rather than the chat if at all possible. And like I said, if we can answer questions during the presentation, we'll do that. I do have other coworkers on that will actually be trying to field questions as they come in if they can. If we need to stop the actual presentation and ask that question because it is relevant to what we're actually going over, I like trying to do that as well. And then any questions that come in that aren't necessarily related to the content, we still want to try to get to those. So at the end, if we have time, we'll do that as well. So safe harbor notice for any forward-looking statements in this. Everything that we're talking about today is in Tokyo, so there shouldn't be any, but we always like to put this here just in case there happens to be some things that are out there. We don't want you to make any buying decisions based on this presentation. So again, my name is Thomas Davis, and I am the host/presenter along with Olga today. So as we did the one a couple weeks ago, I'm going to do some presentation, and then Olga's going to be gracious enough to demo all of these different things that we have. So with that, and then also, like I said, I do have some coworkers. So Tara and Dan are also here as well. So they'll be here to answer questions. So again, what we're going to talk about today is what's new in Tokyo as it relates to data visualizations. So last week, or a couple of weeks ago, we talked about some really new great features, and we hope to give you some more today. So our agenda, what we plan to talk about is we want to show and talk about the new multi-pivot table visualization, along with the new dial chart visualization. We have some new date range filtering and aggregation for indicators on the single score dial and bar and pie charts. So we want to show you some new data configuration options and UX improvements. We want to show you allow passing custom data to data visualizations. And then finally, data visualization API exposed as a data resource in UIB. So again, our thought process is we're going to try to get all of this to you today to help you, create some new things and maybe some better visualizations for your customers. So with that, let's go ahead and start with multi-pivot table visualization. So this is something that is new with Tokyo, and we like to think it's a helpful visualization to visualize data in a table view to help users analyze data across multiple dimensions. This is something that I know that has been asked for quite a while, so we're excited to show that here in Tokyo. So the role required is none. It is out of the box. So if you can get to the visualization designer or UIB, the UI builder, you can definitely see this. Of course, if you want to say the visualization, you'd have to have the viz_creator role. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. And again, like I said, this is a new capability, so it doesn't really change any of the existing content. So as I said, it is a new data visualization type, and it's added to the data visualization component. So when you're in Visualization Designer or UI Builder, you will see this as an option now. It's available to creators by default, no special actions to enable it. All the configuration options are optional. So with the upgrade, if you're upgrading to this, you'll see it. There's no configuration that's necessary to see it. And like I said, the functionality is available in UI Builder, and you'll see it in Next Experience Dashboard whenever you use the Visualization Designer. There's no impact or special consideration or anything for this functionality. It's there by default. No upgrade scripts or anything that you would have to do. It is a new functionality, so it shouldn't break anything, any existing functionality or test. And the functionality is turned on automatically for new installs and upgrades, which I mentioned a few moments ago. So here are some links, and these will all be at the end of the prezo as well. And of course, when we attach this presentation as a PDF to the event, you'll be able to see all of these. But these are some links that we have in our docs that will talk about this information a little bit more. So like I said, Olga's going to do the demo portion, but we figured we'd go through everything first so she would be nice and fluid with all of the demos. So with that, the next thing that we want to talk about is the dial chart visualization, which is really an alternative to a single score. So you now can take information that's familiar and inside of a single score and actually see it in the dial chart, which is a different way of looking at that. And the most useful for metrics within a fixed max field or indicate progress towards a higher value, and you can actually set those different things. Again, there's no role that's required with this. It is out of the box, and you will see it by default. But again, just like the multi-pivot, if you wanted to save it to the visualization library, you would have to have the this creator role for that. So again, this is added to the data visualization component. So you'll see it right underneath single score. It's there for you, and it is available to creators by default. No actions to enable it or anything of that sort. And then all the configuration options are optional. So with the upgrade, just like with the multi-pivot, this is very similar. It will be there. And of course, you'll see it in all of the different tools as well. So no architectural changes related to this. The changes are available by default, and the feature itself is designed to allow customers to configure data visualization with flexible data and styling configurations. So you can select data to display, you can configure the metric, colors, and other display settings. And I know that Olga will show that. She'll play around with those different features here shortly. And again, there's no special impact or anything considered for this. It is there for you out of the box, or comes default with the upgrade. And again, here are some links that I'll have that you'll be able to get to as well. We'll talk about those a little bit later as well. So the next thing that Olga will display or demo, is the ability now for date range filtering and aggregation for indicators in a single score, dial, and bar and pie charts. I know this is something that has been asked for a long time. So, here shortly when you see it, you should be excited about that. And again, the ability to view sums and averages of indicator scores for the affected period. You can view the indicator data for any selected data point and view the change of the indicator value for a selected period in a single score visualization. There's no role required for this. It is there for you. And again, like everything else, if you want to save it, you have to have the VZ creator. And this is a new capability. So here are some example use cases of why you would want to do this. So allow users to view sum average for indicator scores for a selected period of time. View indicator data for any selected data point, and also view change of indicator value for selected period. Single score, got a typo there, but single score. So just some ideas around why you would use the date range filtering. But again, Olga will show this here shortly. So this is a bit of a wordy slide here, and we don't necessarily need to read all of it. But basically what it comes down to is it now gives you the ability to apply date ranges. And, you can show the data for selected period. For a single score, when show change is enabled, users have the option to show change from, which allows the ability to define if the change in a single score will be calculated compared to the previous score or comparing to the period start. And again, I don't need to read all of this stuff, and you definitely can, but it's just, talks really about the ability to now take dates and filter them, and especially on aggregations and, averages and sums of that sort. And I think it'll definitely make a whole lot more sense, and you'll see it when Olga demonstrates it here shortly. And just like there is no impact for this, there's nothing that you have to do. It's just there with the upgrade, or if you have a new install of Tokyo. And then next, the new data configuration options and UX improvements. So now some things that have been actually added. There's now a new description field that provides more context for the end users. Table values sortable by the order of choice fields. Absolute date ranges configured for indicator time series. Legend alignment and truncation options available for time series charts. Just gives you more access to the legend and things that you can do there. And improve refresh time for single score visualization to make it more consistent and allow display relative refresh time in addition to absolute. Again, no role is required. This is a new capability, so shouldn't be any impact to anything. So as I actually said, this is kind of, it talks about some use cases that were kind of in that first slide. But again, it just allows the ability to add descriptions for data visualizations, for additional context for an end user, the ability to sort by choice field order, the absolute date range for configuration of PA time series, which I know is a big one. People have been asking for that for a while. And again, expose some legend alignment and truncation options. And again, like I said, improve the refresh time for single score. You can actually, you have some really good ability to do some custom things there. And new configuration options were added to configuration panel for data visualizations, which you'll see here shortly. So all of these things that all the bullets that I talked about, OGA will show all of those and you actually see them inside of the configuration panel. And again, the options are available to creators by default. There's no special action or anything that's needed. And all the configuration options are optional. So with the upgrade or new instance, if you have one of those. Again, there's no impact. This is all new functionality, so it shouldn't break anything. And again, it's turned on by default. So next, the ability to the passing of custom data to a data visualization. So it allows for easy access for developers to pass their own data into a data visualization components to allow better control of time of data load to optimize performance. Use some data across multiple components on the page for more efficiency, do more complex data modification, calculation, and styling before passing data to the visualization, and now the ability to combine multiple data source types. For this, there are some roles that are required, which are admin and UI builder admin, because this is something that'll be done inside of UIB. And then this is a new capability as well. So again, having the ability, setting a data source and define it manually. When the toggle is set to true, instead of selecting a standard data source, developers can pass in JSON format data that can be visualized. Typically, it'll be passed via script or via data binding. I don't know how deep Olga will go with that, but I'm sure she'll talk to it. And then, of course, when defining data manually is used, most of the standard options for data configurations are hitting. All the styling settings are still available. And I believe this is the last one, and then we'll actually be able to get to the demo. I know it's a lot of information. I just wanted to make sure that we gave enough time to Olga. All of this will make sense when she shows it to you. So lastly, data visualization API exposed as a data resource in UIB. So this gives developers easy access for data visualization APIs in UIB to allow seeing data sources that are not supported out of the box or visualizing them, using them. Do more complex data modification, calculation, and styling of standard data sources before passing them, and combine, again, multiple data sources as well. This does also require the admin or the UI builder admin, and this is a new capability as well. So the three new data resources that are exposed and experienced under data visualization core applications are data visuals and APIs for indicator data source or metric base or a table data source, and Olga will show those. Response of the data resource can be easily used to pass data to visualization component and other components on the page. New data resources are available in Next Experience users by default. No special actions are required, and all the configurations options are optional with the upgrade. There's nothing extra that has to be done. No architectural changes related or anything. New data resources are available by default in Visualization Designer and UI Builder. And the API has extensive configuration options, parameters to allow users to get data they need, and aggregation support for data visualizations. And again, you'll see it here shortly. And like everything else here, there's no impact. This is there. It's new functionality, and it shouldn't break any existing thing. So I know that was kind of quick, and we covered a lot of topics there. But again, I think that the real nuts and bolts of this presentation is the actual demo of that. So with that, Olga, if you're ready, we'd love to see everything that I just talked about.
Thank you, Thomas. Hi, everybody. So as we showed a few weeks ago, we added this platform analytic workspace, and under workspaces where you can have access to all your Next Experience analytics. And this is from where it's easiest to show all the new capabilities for the data visualizations. Of course, the data visualization, just a quick reference, you can find it here, but you can also configure them through the UI builder and expose it in any of your workspaces, any of your next experience applications. So let's first start with the new pivot table, which we're very excited to show you. So here under multidimensional charts, we have the new options pivot table. And it works for both PA data and table data. I will start with table data. So I'm selecting incident as a table. I can, of course, configure my metric. We'll keep it to just a count. And I have an options to configure rows and columns. So by default, if you use single metric, you can have maximum 1 columns and up to 5 rows. Everything is optional, so you don't have to have columns. So if I want to have just, let's say, assignment group as my dimension, I can do it. I don't have to have columns. You also, if I want, of course, I can edit, and as I mentioned, you can have up to 5 levels of rows, and they will be just adding here as an extra levels. There's different settings that you can control as show rows grand totals, show columns grand totals, show row subtotals, different sorting options. If you want to sort your dimensions based on the value, which is by default, you can see the total is sorted from max value to the smallest value, or you can do it based on the name as well. And you have some default settings like freezing headers, freezing footers, freezing first columns, defining like if you want to have show alternative rows, columns, display lines, hide all the lines. So you can have like the visual style in any way you want. And you have color configuration. So by default, you have this basic table look, but if you want to have conditional colors for your values, you can do it. So you can control both the score colors and the background colors, right? So typically what you would want to do, I guess, is to have a condition. So if the value is, let's say, greater than 10, you can make color of the score to be, say, critical dark red, and background color to be light pink. And you can see it would apply to the not to the totals, but for the element colors itself, for all the levels. It would make more sense, of course, if you have single levels of rows, because of course the multitude of the numbers is different on the different levels. From the best practice, we generally would recommend you to use either background colors or the colors of the score itself, but it's up to you. We're not limiting. It's just from the design perspective, it's easier to read if it's just one color is magnified. Or you can use just colors. If you make it too dark of the color, you can make the color of the score itself white, for example, that it's easier to read for the accessibility purpose. To the most exciting features, which I want to show you, is we do support, finally, comparing to the reporting, we support multiple metrics. So it's if you want to check different metrics. So let's say I want to see the number of incidents, but also I want to see average business duration. You can edit. In this case, you can notice that we have some limitations for the multiple metrics. At this point of time, you only have one row, and no columns. Future-looking statement, we are planning to remove these limitations in the future, but for the Tokyo release, that's what's available, but gives you a bunch of flexibility. In this case, of course, in your color rules, you can notice that you can define color rules for each metric, because of course values could be completely different. So you want to have separate control for each metrics on the color rules. Pretty much the same logic, it would work for the PA data. Let me just quickly create a new one. It's exactly the same, but based on the limitation, of course, of the PA, you can have maximum 2 breakdowns still. So you can have 1 row and 1 column, or 2 rows, or anything you want. So let's say I have a priority and I have category. So you can see that automatically you're not allowed to add any more breakdowns. If there's no questions related to this.
Yeah, Olga, we did have one question that came in here, and it said, so with the pivot, is it possible to format the duration, like remove the seconds?
Yeah, so we have here the formatting options for all charts. It's available. And let me give you let me create the new one for the table. Let's make it the duration. So for all the chart, we have this format values options. In case it's durations, you will see it's for the type duration. For the custom formatting, you have this. It's similar how we have in the reporting actually, but in difference with the reporting, it's supporting all chart types. There's no limitations for that. So that's exactly the same configuration. You can define the unit if it's full value or shortened version of full value of days, hours, minutes, and you can define your max unit and min unit. So let's say if you want everything to be in hours, you can just do min and max unit to be hours, and apply it. And then you can see it's all recalculated in hours. So if it was days, it multiplied to 24 hours, and you know that it's calculated. And again, for every single chart here, you can do it, whether it's like bar charts, time series, single score, pivot. You will have this option.
Okay, great, thank you.
And going to the next chart. The next chart is a dial. We have beautiful duration. Let me go back to count. It's too big of a number. So it's pretty straightforward. The configuration of the data is exactly the same as you have for the single score. You just can select a single data source, can be any data source, whether it's indicator or table, and you can choose a metric. So of course, formatting options. In additional settings, the only settings you have is to show metric label. Again, works exactly the same as for the single score. Reminders to change the label. By default, you can see the name of data source, like in this case, the name of table is selected. But if you want to change it in the metric configuration, you can change it to be anything you want. And you can define, of course, in the presentation, we have several settings. So first you have the value label size. it's a relative size based on the for the score inside of this dial. So you can see if I will be resizing the my window, it is the absolute size of the score is decreasing, but relative comparing to the arc stays the same. Then you have control of the minimum and maximum value. So by default, the minimum is 0 and maximum is dynamic. So it's next rounded number after your score. But as mentioned, the best use case for the dial when you have kind of the end number in mind. Let's say you have an SLA where the maximum is 100 or something like this. So you can put your maximum number to be anything you want. Then you have the inner radius. So you can see we have this in tooltip, some information. So it's a ratio of the inner and outer radius of the dial. So it can be from 0.7 to 0.95. So you can see 0.95 will be the thinnest it can be, and 0.7 is the thickest it could be. And you can, of course, define the color rules. So you can have a fixed color. So you want to be always pink. That's always a good choice. Or you can have the normal use case. Of course, you will have a color rules. So kind of based on the some logic. So if it's your SLA, you will use the SLA logic. If it's you have some kind of targets for your department, you will say that if it's lower than like 70, use dark orange. The dial chart, same as a single score, it's also support the options for the real-time update. So whenever the score, the data changes under it, it will change, and of course the color rules will apply as well. So if right now we'll have more scores added, or more incidents added, and that it goes above the 70, which is now defined the color orange, the color will go back to, in my case, pink, because that's my default fallback. And you can have this as many color rules as you want. And if it doesn't, the rules are applied similar how it was in the color rules in the reporting. It applies in the order. And if none of the rules pass, then it goes to this default color. And yeah, it's exactly the same. It would work for the performance analytics. Are there any colors for the dial I can quickly answer?
No, I don't think that there's anything that's related to that.
Okay. Great. The next exciting feature is support of the date range on your dashboard to work with non-time series PA data visualizations. So we already had in the previous releases the date range filters in the next experience, where you can select any range of data you can think of, or some relative date range as a quick option. But it was only working either with table data, where it's straightforward because you will just define to which field in the table it relates, to which date field, and it will just add a filter condition, or it will apply to the time series of the PA, which is also straightforward because if I select data from August 3 to August 9, I'm just showing this range. There's nothing to do with the score. But what we get a lot of asks for is say like, hey, I wanna have this dashboard where I can track some metrics over time. So I can select how much we saved over last quarter or for the specific period, how many incidents in total were open for some period. And I wanna do it not to be limited for the reporting table-based visualizations, but also to make it work with performance analytics. Of course, it makes a lot of sense. So that's what we did. Just quickly show how it would work. You can see now it's I'm applying the date range filter. I select from the August 1st to the August 16. And you can see different options. Let me see the smaller period. So you can see that there's a few use cases. Of course, for the first one, this for the single score, you can see that it's still showing me data for the August 17, which is end of the period where I selected, but it's comparing it to the August 9, the beginning of the period. So the change is between start and end of the period. This is first type of configuration you can do. While the bar chart here below is showing me data for the selected period, the sum of the new incident for the selected period. And if I show you the configuration of it, so what we did, we added here the new settings, the new sections, the date range, where by default, when you create a new visualization, apply date range for the non-time series chart for the PA will be set to false. And this is done to make sure that if you ever already created pages with the date range on the page and you were not planning to your single score or your bar chart to follow it, on your upgrade, nothing will change. But if you decide you do want to apply date range for your chart, there are some choices you have to make, right? The first choice you want to say, like, okay, what do you want to see? So you have the period selected. There's few choices. You can show the latest score for the selected period. You can show the sum of the scores for the selected period or the average of the scores for the selected period. So it will take all the scores for all the dates in this case, because it's daily score, right? It's takes all the scores and it will apply the mass to it. Quick reference, in case of formula indicator, right? We have a setting on the formula indicator itself, the same logic which is applying for the time, this default out of the box time aggregations. You have a settings if this time aggregation is applied to the result of the formula, so it will take result of the formula for each date and will apply the average or sum on top of this, or it will apply to the element of the formula. So those indicators which is part of the formula, it will apply the sum or average to those and then apply formula on top of that. So based on specific settings on your formula indicator, the logic will follow. So this is so it will be very consistent to the way how your out of the box time aggregations works for your indicators. And you can see that whenever I'm selecting the sum or average, you will see for the single score specifically, you will see right away whether it's sum or average here, and you will see from the information which is passed from the filter itself whether it's on which period it's applied. And the comparison is done on the same period before. So if I will select show me data for 10 days, it will compare it to the 10 days before that. If you do have the date range filter, like you can see that here you also have the number of periods selected, but this is just default. Whenever you have the date range applied from your dashboard, it will override those default range which is applied here. It's just, this is something, let's say I want to have the sum. The sum will apply if I will not have any filter applied here. You can see that this my 1 month is taken from the defaults when nothing is applied on the page itself. And as I mentioned, for the single score, we have this extra setting. Whenever you have, you show the latest score for the selected period. In your additional settings for the change, you can choose whether you compare it with the previous value. This is the logic we always had in the Classic as well. That's here you can see it's comparing if the data is the latest for selected period, so data is for the August 21, it's comparing to the day before that, or the score before that. But you can also choose to compare to with the value of the period start. And here you can see it's comparing to the data of the July 22, which is 1 month prior. And yeah, so now you just can think what you can do with this. I think it's pretty big possibilities on the things you can really track your metrics over time, see how much incidents you have for a specific period, or of course, even more interesting on the things like how much money you saved for selected period, for any financial application, for any financial data, but any like numeric one as well. That's pretty powerful to give this for your users, that they don't limit it to the predefined ranges any longer.
Hey, Olga, real quickly, was the counts deaggregation available?
For which one?
That's the Kava. That's all that they asked was that. So I'm guessing whenever you
do we have count aggregation available? Count of scores, because it's PA, right? So you have, for example, number of open incidents. You have the number over the period of time. So every day you collect the score saying how much open incidents you had, like today, yesterday, day before. So the indicator itself can be a count, right? In case of number of open incidents, it's a count of the incidents. It's how the score is collected. But how you aggregate these scores, how do you aggregate this metric? We have only options like just show the latest score, show sum or average. I'm not sure what would be the use case to just count the scores, because it will be just number of days, pretty much of what you select.
Yeah, and they understand the question. They might be able to clear up exactly what they're thinking there with that. So, and another question that came in, and maybe it was just a setting on your instance that wasn't there, but Will had even asked this when we were showing the multi-pivot, and it says, in PA, why can we not add commas to display numbers on the chart? Example, instead of 500,000 or 5 with 4 or 5 zeros, we need to do 500 comma and then 000. So I don't know if it was, and Dan, you might want to speak to that as well.
When you have a very big number, like below 3 numbers, to have like the nice formatting, which makes it more readable, instead of just have a decimal point. This is something that we are looking into to add as a formatting options, also to make sure that it's nicely following your internationalization, because of course Europe and US understand things differently. Currently not available. The recommendation here, if you have very big number, to use an abbreviation. In the meaning, it will show 45.4K, 45.5 M, like millions, the thousands, etc. So you never have too big of a number, because it's even if you add the nice format into it, big number is pretty hard to read. Very valid comments though for the pivot, I have to say. For the table, sometimes you just want to have the full number, and that's not available yet. Very good feedback. We'll take it into account.
What I understand, and Will, can you maybe we'll let him ask it here too. But I think what I understand his questions being is that it sounds like he's seeing 500,000 in PA written as 500,000, as opposed to like 500K or something like that, or 500 with a comma in the middle of it. Is that correct, Will? And I will, if we can, maybe unmute Will so that we can clarify that question. Where is he? There he is. Allow to talk. There we go. You're allowed to talk here now, Will.
Yes, that's the case.
Okay. So you're seeing the fives. So you're seeing 500,000, not 500K. Is what you're saying,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, I think it's by default. It's just the full value. It's it's a good question why it's not, we're not applying it by default. Something also to consider. But this is here. You will see this value for the numeric. You will have this settings to enable abbreviation, and then it will format it to the shortened version. So you can always do it. Just we're not doing it by default.
I think part of it though too is that are we these formatting values, is there any distinction between whether the data is coming from a PA indicator versus a table?
No, you can apply it for any data source, even if you like, it doesn't matter.
Okay,
it's just
that's what
like
I thought.
the formatting we apply on the on the chart itself, like after data coming from the API.
Does that help, Will? I mean, so it sounds like what you're seeing is you know, any controls you should have should be with those settings that Rolgo's just showing there. So okay.
Is that only available in Tokyo, or is that in San Diego as well?
The formatting available in the data visualization for a while, I think from San Diego or earlier. I don't remember exactly.
I think even Rome for sure.
No,
but it would be in the next experience view.
Rome. Was it? I don't remember anymore. From Quebec.
Yeah, but it'd be in the next experience visualizations though.
It's only for the next period. In the classic, on the PA widget, you always have only abbreviated value. You could never see the full value in the PA widgets in the classic dashboard. But in the data visualization, in the next experience, this formatting option is available from Quebec.
Thank you, Olga.
Thank you.
And going to the, if there's no more options about the date range, I would like to show some new configuration options which we have. The first one is, actually, let me exit the mode. We have this, the options to add your description. Not the right way. Okay, let's just create the chart. So we have the settings in the header and border section, in addition to the chart title. You can add something description which can help your users to, it depends what you need to understand the metric, to understand what they have to do with this information, what's data are behind it, like anything that can help user to get a little bit more context of what they're looking at, but what you don't want to have like too much in the face, but like more at request. The most asked use cases for this is just understand a bit more the indicator which I'm looking at with a more human described language, or just to give information about some actions you have to do based on this. So that's available for all charts, and then for the legend, for the bar charts, for the time series charts, we have extra options. So let me make my screen much smaller. So you can see that by default, the legend has a fixed size, and it has the only two rows available, after which the scroll bar is appeared. So the one option is to expand legend vertically. So it always will fit. It will take as much space as it needs, and just the chart will shrink on the required space. Another setting, and let me for this to make some longer options, like let's say assign to. you can choose how much space your chart will, your legend element will take. Sometimes you have a very long legend and they truncate, but you don't want to. In other use cases could be they're too long, they don't truncate, you want it shorter to take less space. So you have the max legend item width, it's in pixels, it's a width of this element itself, like for example, Charlie Witherspoon, sorry for the pronunciation as a non-native speaker. Let's say you can make it very small to be like, let's say 100 pixels and it will truncate. You can do even smaller, not very useful. Or you can make it much bigger and it will always fit no matter how big are you making it. Again, that's available for the for different for all charts where you have this kind of legend. And you have the alignment of the legend. And let me, for this use case, take a bit smaller, let's say active. By default, the horizontal alignment of the legend is central, but you can change it to be at the start of the chart or at the end of the chart. Again, based on the use cases that can be more useful for you. That's a short extension of the legend configuration, and quickly going to the single score. For the single score, we had previously, I don't have it on this instance because we changed it. Whenever you use real time, what would happen, you have a small timestamp on top, like at 1847, which is my time. It's the time when the score is updated, when you have the request coming from the record watcher. So when somebody added the record you are looking at. That was not very nice when you have multiple single score on the same page, because by default, there will be no information on the time and it only will appear after the chart is updated. So the layout, if you have multiple single score next to each other, the layout can mess up because the scores are not aligned any longer. And it also changes like the score itself information, the time of when score was updated is not available right away on the load, but only when the data are refreshed on the background. So what we did the settings in additional settings. Now you have always settings, which you can say show the score update time. And you can choose it, you can do it, it could be there for the real time, for not real time, for any single score. And you can choose whether it's a relative score time or an absolute, because quite often it's hard to say 1847, how long time ago it was, because then you have to go see what time is it now. Much more easier is to have relative, because then you say it was updated just now, and then in 1 minute it will say updated 1 minute ago. And same way it will be have 1 minute increment till it gets to the hour. So yeah, that's a small update. It's also available for the performance analytics single score whenever you use the real time. Then you also can have in the same position, instead of this the score date, which is available normally for the indicator, you will have this the time when the score was updated. And it happens like it would refresh when you refresh it manually, whether you load the chart or whether you get data from your record watcher. That's
a couple quick questions, Olga. So so these features that you're showing, for example, with the legend options, is this just in Visualization Designer, or did some of those options also go with reporting?
Like Report Designer.
So all these charts, all these configuration options are available on the data visualization component, which is only available on the next experience. You have them available in the Visualization Designer, next experience dashboards when you configure visualization directly on the dashboard, or UI builder for the for your workspaces. You do not have them in the classic dashboards, reports, or PA widgets. I mean, the description was already there in the classic reports and PA widgets. So that feature just was there before, but everything we show today, it's feature of data visualization component, which is only applicable for the next experience. But it doesn't matter where you use this, like from where you configure this data visualization.
Okay, thank you. And then another one that kind of goes back to a couple of the first things you talked about as it related to data sources. So when you select a data source, and let's say, for example, you picked a table, there's additional filtering that can happen, right?
Yep. So we have like option to have predefined conditions. This is a report sources. So you can see all the report sources here, which you have in the classic. So it referring the same list. So you can say all my closed incidents, and then you have custom conditions. So just using condition builder, you can put anything on top.
Okay, so the question is, can you dot walk from those conditions?
Yeah, so you can do assign to company is something, right? So it's the same condition builder you have in the classic reporting with full capabilities of the condition builder, where you can dot walk, you can filter by the variables, you can like everything that condition builder supports, like that you can do what you can do on the normal list, plus related list conditions, which you cannot do on the normal list as far as I remember.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Dan, you had something?
Yeah, I want to talk to Kavya had a question about, and I think it's a good one just to talk about just out-of-box dashboards in general. So I wanted to wait until we're done with Olga's main presentation, because this is more of an overreaching question. So.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, let me. So I'm finished with the basic features which are available for the end users or subject matter experts. So let me now move to the few exciting advanced features which is available in the UI builder only, or useful for the UI builder users only, and something that developers can be excited about. I will show it on the example of the advanced dashboards, which you can see when you configure it in the UI builder, but it's the same functionality for the standard UXF pages, any page you configure in the UI builder. So the first one, whenever you have any data visualization, you have this option here to define data manually. So right here, what you see, you will have some sample of the data just to know the format, but you're passing data in pretty much JSON format, and it will be for each chart type, it will be slightly different. I mean, for each chart category, like for single score, you just pass in some one number with some values. I mean, it's for the advanced course, you can also have a sparkline, so you can have a time series information as well, some metadata. For the bar chart, it's like group data. For the time series, it's just an array of the timestamps and values with some metadata to it and some formatting options. So the example here is quite helpful. So it's extended example, which you can start from. But we pretty much don't expect you to physically do it, like literally do it manual data, because it's static, and it's, even though you might have a use case, it's not very exciting use case probably. So what is designed for is to pretty much to pass data from anywhere else. Let's say you can, so we have in the UIB, you have different options to either have a script where you can pass data through the script, which could be dynamic, or you can pass it through the data binding, and I will show shortly a few examples of that. But why would you do it is several use cases. Maybe it's data not from the standard PA or reporting. Maybe you get data from somewhere else. I don't know where you're getting it from. You somehow get this information in the through the scripts, through the data resources in the UI builder, and you want to put it. Or you want to do some formulas on top of it. You get data from the reporting or from the PA, but you want to do something on top of it. Some formula, some anything we don't support yet, but you want to add it, you can do it. Or you want to combine multiple data sources. So this is an example. For example, let me just show it in combination with the next feature. For the next feature, we added in the data resources, we added the new data resource. If you search for data visualizations, we have this application data visualization core, and you have 3 data resources exposed. It's pretty much we expose in our API for the which return data in the format which visualization component is expecting. So it's very easy to use visualization component. You have one for the indicator, one for the metric base, and one for the table data. So this is, for example, I have example of the indicator data resource where I get data in the bar format for the incident table per assignment group. It's actually table. So you select your table, you select your aggregation. So it's just a list of the parameters for the API, which you can select. And it's based on what you select. It will either bring you data with the in a single score format. If you don't ask for any trend by and group by, it will be single score. If you ask for trend by, it will be time series. If you don't ask for trend by but use group by, it will be a group format which you can use for the bar chart and or pie chart, for example. So why did we expose it? First of all, right? Because you can access it from the data visualization. The reason why we expose it is there's few main use cases. Maybe you want to go an extra mile to optimize the performance. Let's say you want to use the same data from the same response, but on the multiple chart. You don't want to have 2 calls separately for separate data visualizations. You want to get it once and then pass it then to each data visualization. Maybe you want to have separately number and time series separately, right? And you can have this advanced single score request will return users data. Or you want to pass it to the chart and to the, let's say, text. You can use this data to display to the text. This is an example. I'm using the heading, it's just a text, and then passing from the, with the script, I'm getting the result from the API of the number of open incidents for the last 7 days. I'm getting this number. I have information of the score and I have information on the change. So I'm do some script and I can create a nice text, which is actually will return data live based on the actual indicator value every time user rendering page, right? If you want to have text analytic, information written in text rather than data visualization, getting some insight for the users and anything. So this is an example that if I'm using the so I have this the data resource, which is returned in the information for my bar chart. So this is, you can see I'm used data resource, and you can just pass the, this is the standard capabilities of the UI builder, right? How you pass, how you use the data binding. So you put add data, then you put the name of your data resource, then output.result. And that's pretty much the output of this API is passed directly to the data visualization. You don't need to do anything, it's just passing. You still have all your styling if you want to apply, let's say you want to maybe hide the y-axis or do anything else. So all the styling options are still available, but that's optional. You can also, if you want to update anything with this result, you can extend it. That's possible. This is an example for me, I'm putting data, because today we only support on the chart, you can put either PA data or reporting data. But by using data resources and some scripting, you can actually join both. So I added 2 data resources. I added one for the incident table per assignment group. It's actually per category. I used category. And then you have the backlog rows per category. It just names you put anything you want. And in the script, I do a very, very basic script where I'm just putting both together and getting the data out of output results of the one data source and another. It returns two JSONs together. And as a result, you can see that you have on the same chart backlog rows and number of open incidents coming from the table in the same chart. So if you want to join the data which coming from our APIs with any other data or multiple data sources between each other, that's kind of also possible. So it gives both these 2 features gives a lot of flexibility to the developers when they create workspace applications to really not be limited neither by any capabilities we have, but also have go an extra mile to optimize and bring your application to the next level. And I think we are at time, or a little bit past time.
Yep, that's okay though. It's good. It's good.
And I'm finished with my
presentation.
stuff,
so it's fine. So thank you very much. Dan, do you want to go ahead and get to the question that you were going to answer out loud?
Yeah, it's a longer answer, but I want to do something just real quick now for anyone who can hang on. It's a question about what's happening with the out-of-the-box dashboards that exist in the current classic or core UI environment. In general, the product teams that build those, and the product teams that build them are the ones that actually own the associated process. So for example, customer service management product team builds the customer service management dashboards. And for the most part, those are all being replaced with new content in the workspace environments, in the next experience environments. So they are considered to be the upgraded content over the existing dashboards that might exist in the classic dashboards. So what that means is then you will still have the option to migrate those dashboards, those classic dashboards, when we have a migration tool available, right? But today and in Tokyo, there is not yet a migration available from an existing classic UI dashboard into the next experience. I believe my understanding is that's currently targeted for the V release. And I don't know if Olga has any more information on that, but I just figured but that's the way it works. So there is not an actual automatic new release of the out-of-the-box dashboards in Next Experience. It's only if that particular product team decided to recreate the exact same dashboard. But for the most part, they are not doing that. They are creating new dashboards that they consider to be new and upgraded content.
So it looks like that Olga is answering another one, and okay. She may even be able to get Kava's other one about the UI builder. She can answer that as well. So real quick, because we are definitely over time. So real quick, let me just kind of go through the rest of this here. So all of those links and everything that was used to build out this presentation are right here. And then as usual, make sure you're utilizing the community. This will be out later on this afternoon inside the event. Make sure you're using Now Learning. There's really great content there that will help you. And I believe that they're working on some stuff for this, and Olga may know more to that, but I believe they are working on some new stuff for the things that came out in Tokyo, and some of them may already be ready. These are the other academies that we always like to plug, so check them out to get great content as well. And thank you, and sorry we went over, but really good content. Olga, thank you very much. Always grateful for the time that you give. And Dan and Tara, I appreciate your time as well. So with that, if we don't have anything else, thank you all, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.